examining the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Was he really the man of God and the martyr that Christians are painting him to be, or something else? We're going to listen to Charlie Kirk in his own words. The man that said blacks had it better in the 1940s because we committed less crimes. We're going to look at the things that he said and look at actual statistics and data.
All prisoners are black. Exactly. So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders. That's not a war on drugs, that's a culture problem.
Okay, so let's talk about that culture. Black people have been legislatively subjugated up until 1965. I'll give it, honestly, it's later, but let's just say 1965. You do not think that 10 generations of legislative subjugation and slavery during that time, 4,000 black men, women, and children are lynched as a result of race riots in this country? You do not think that these things have a lasting effect? We have had 10 generations of subjugation and 4 of legislative freedom.
Of course they have an impact, but it's more on you to explain why things got worse since the Civil Rights Act. More violent, less fathers around, poorer. Why is that?
And that's exactly what I'm going to explain in this video. Now, Charlie Kirk has been on record for saying that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. And here he's repeating the same rhetoric that it's a mistake because black people were more poorer and they had less fathers in the home and there was a higher level of violence. So we're going to look at why is that. Now, I want to address a statement that he made in a different video, also combined with this video, in which he said in the 1940s that blacks had it better off because more father figures were in the home and there was more wealth. And I want to start off with the wealth. How come it is that black people would go from having more wealth in the early 1900s to all of a sudden the wealth dropping? What happened? What is the cause and what is the reason behind the wealth disparity between white people and black people? Now, let's start off simply. Imagine you are living in Africa. You are enjoying wealth and many resources, gold and diamonds. You're not struggling in poverty, but you're enjoying yourself and you have all that you could ever desire. But one day colonizers come to your country. They kidnap your people. All your wealth is plundered, stolen. Your women are raped. Your people are enslaved. And once you get to the Americas, you suffer. You are brutally subjugated for years, for centuries, 400 years, not 5, not decades, but centuries. And you are left feeling discouraged because of all of the suffering that your people have to go through. And after all those years of slavery, you still have to deal with Jim Crow. You still have to deal with violence. You still have to deal with lynchings. You still have to deal with those things. Are you going to give up? Most people would say, yes, if I had to go through that, I would give up. But what did African Americans choose to do instead, despite not having the same head start as white Americans? Well, let's look at Black Wall Street in the early 1900s. It was an economic powerhouse. In the early 20th century, the Greenwood district in Tulsa was a thriving community with 108 black-owned businesses, including hotels, restaurants, retail shops, and professional services like lawyers, doctors, and dentists. Black people were thriving. Black people were relying on themselves. Black people were enjoying, and you can find this with many other historical resources in the 1900s. You can find many other versions of Black Wall Streets, and you can see the wealth and the affluence that black people had during this time, despite the fact of all the subjugation that black people have gone through, being stripped of our name and our culture and everything taken away from us, and the fact that they have tried to destroy the family structure, which we're about to get to address this other point. And now the question is, well, what happened to all of these things? I wonder what happened. Why all the change? The prosperity of Greenwood was destroyed in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, where mobs of white people murdered black residents and burned the entire 35-block district. You see this? There is even reports that Abraham Lincoln tried to give black people money after slavery, but white people squander all the wealth of black people. So we can see the squandering, the stealing, and the violence, yet you can sit up here and say blacks are more violent than white people. And you want to talk about black people are so poor, but you don't want to understand what the hand that your people had to play in destroying black people, destroying black wealth. Can you imagine everything is stripped from you, yet you still have the resilience to rise and make a name for yourself, and you end up being unalive? What message does that send to the rest of the community? Now, during slavery, what would happen is that, and whenever a slave would revolt, such as Nat Turner, when he revolted, what happened is that they hung Nat Turner, and after hanging Nat Turner, he was set as an example for other slaves who try to revolt. And so what they tried to do by unaliving these black people is they were sending a message that if the rest of you all try to do this, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is where the ghetto started to come in. This is where the redlining started to happen. This is where the gentrification started to happen. This is where the poverty in the black community started to grow. This is where you get your drugs from, as he talked about the war on drugs, and he wanted to pretend like he didn't know where that came from. This is where the drugs came from in the black community. And I understand that, yes, black people should be held accountable for taking drugs, but as Christians, we should know Jesus said that even though that offenses is going to take place into the world, there is more woe unto the one by which the offenses come. So there was a greater judgment on white America for planting those drugs in the black communities and in the ghettos that they created, in the poverty that they created. So much for black wealth, right?